The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Loving God, we give you thanks for this day and for the cold that makes us remember we are alive. As we look at what we've done and we look at what we are to do, we give thanks for all your work. We give thanks for your guidance and our steps ahead. In Christ's name, amen. A couple folks are handing out. I decided not to do the screens because we're looking at spreadsheets and things like that. And so I printed off 35 of these. Hopefully everyone gets one. If not, y'all can share and stuff. What this is a preview of a packet you'll all receive at the annual meeting. Because the way our process is today at noon, the vestry will approve the budget. And so next week when we present it to the congregation has no say, right? Like at the annual meeting, it's just presented to you. It's approved today. And so the last couple years, we've moved things around. So y'all could have some input before it's approved. And so if we talk through this and one of y'all realizes, oh, y'all aren't doing this, then Gary will look at DJ will look at me, and I'll turn around and look for Gavin or somebody, and we'll fix it before. But that's kind of the process. This way, y'all actually have a voice in this, and then it gets approved. The top sheet, where there are words and not charts, this is the financial notes. The way our process works financially is our treasurer, who is DJ, and our financial manager, who's Sue back there. Every month, Sue finalizes the books and does all that, and she hands things across the kitchen table, probably to DJ. I'm just picturing how this probably works. And then DJ reads all of this and writes up a summary so that those of us who don't speak spreadsheet can understand what's going on. And this goes first to the finance committee. Many members, if you're on the finance committee, raise your hand just so people can see. A lot of them are here. Yep, it's the wardens, it's some parishioners, just people who love to do this for Lord knows why, other members of the vestry, and then the finance team and myself. The finance committee talks about issues related to finance, and they make recommendations. Things aren't really decided at the finance committee, right? Everything's decided by the vestry, but the finance committee provides input and recommendation, and that happened yesterday. That's always the Saturday before the vestry meeting. It's always open if you ever want to join in and hear what's going on. Talk to me, talk to Gary. Christine, I agree with you. Roll your eyes. No one should want to do that. No, we try to have a good time. That happened yesterday. Today, we'll have a finance report. And if you look at this top sheet, a couple of notes. Closing out the books in 2024, we had a $71,000 surplus. That's caused by a couple things. One, that's great news. If this were a business, like we'd give a dividend to all the shareholders. Sorry, that's not how we operate here. But that's because of two reasons. One, we were $15,000 under budget, roughly. We have a staff that's very diligent about what we spend. And so even though some things like buildings and grounds this year, lots of things, they're both looking at me. You're welcome. Yeah. We would have had a bigger budget if it weren't for those two guys. Lots of things went wrong. Lots of things had to be fixed. So that line item in the budget was over. But other places, it was the only one substantially over. There were other that were within, shooting range of it. But we keep under budget. The other thing is we exceeded plan for income. Things like plate income, like non-pledge plate income was above. But even pledge income, it's the first time since I've been here. DJ said it's the first time that since he's been doing the books in 30 years that you folks gave us through pledges more than you committed to, right? And so that's a testament to y'all's generosity and faithfulness. Most churches, yeah, absolutely. And this has been a progression. I've seen this coming, right? Most churches, they discount their pledges. Like you've all told us you're going to give $427,000 next year, something like that. A lot of churches in their budget will discount that 10% off the bat when they look at their income because they know things are going to happen. Someone's going to go on vacation and forget to write the check. Someone's going to get laid off, whatever it is, right? And so churches a lot of times will say, they'll take 90% of what y'all promised and say, this is what we can count on. When I came, it was more like 95%. And the last couple of years, it's been within percentage points of y'all fulfilling. This is the first year it's over. And so we've actually taken your pledges that you told us for 2025, and that number is in the 2025 budget because we have faith that y'all will continue to be generous the way you have. And so that's why we have more income. So then that leads a question to what are we going to do with that money, right? And so I didn't have the sheet. I forgot to print it off. Well, this is a test to see if I can remember. The Finance Committee is proposing to the vestry how to use that surplus. And so the things we're going to do is about $10,000 of that will be used for a website redesign. Our website hasn't been redesigned in several years. It's $9,300. We have the bid in hand. We're ready to go. That was in the budget for next year. We've been able to take it out of the budget because we're using surplus from last year. Another thing we're going to do is $2,300 to fix the playground. If you have little kids, maybe you know that it's kind of unusable because there's weeds and stickers and all sorts of things. And so what that's going to look like is taking all the rocks up, getting the landscaping in order, putting gravel back in the rim, like where the kids play, getting it out of the grass area. It's going to be another instance. We have a bid in hand. We know what it's going to cost. So that work will happen. $10,000 of that surplus, the vestry is going to direct me to donate it to the Diocese of Los Angeles, particularly through St. Matthew's Pacific Palisades. A good buddy of mine is the associate rector there. The cousin of Leslie, the cousin of Leslie, who normally sits over there by Rick. She's in the kitchen. Her cousin is the marketing person there. And so we have connections to that church. That they lost their church. They lost all the houses for their clergy and the school. It's all gone. And so we're going to send that $10,000 to their fire relief fund. Because they're a church, they're not going to use it all for themselves. They're continuing to support the community around them. And so because of that connection and because of the urgency of the matter, $10,000 of that $71,000 surplus will go to that. $30,000, is that right, DJ? Will go to replenish the emergency. $20,000 will go to replenish the emergency fund. $10,000, right, for capital expenditures. Is that right? Yes. Yeah, so $10,000 will be set aside for capital expenditures. This is the beginning of a capital expense account. Right now, when something in here breaks, we've been using it through budget and cash flow, which is why we've been over budget in buildings and grounds. We're setting aside a designated account so that if something breaks and it's more than $1,000, we draw down from that and we don't use budget. This also enables folks who, if you ever want to be generous and say, I just want to give so that these buildings can be maintained, there's now an account for that as well. But this is something that will help us avoid a cash crunch, kind of like we had this year where we had to move some things around. But it's setting up that capital expense fund. Am I missing something in my head that doesn't total $71,000?
$25,000 for the AC replacement.
Yeah, $25,000. IO's in the budget. That's a different thing. We'll get to that. That's important. I know IO, I told him, he smiled real big. $25,000 will go to our air-conditioned HVAC replacement fund. We had a bunch of money in there to replace the ACs in this building, which that's all been done, right? This is all brand new ACs in this building. When we start to work on renovations and getting to the next building, there's 4 air conditioning units in the church building. 2 of them have been replaced since I've been here, so they're 4 years or less. 2 of them can drink. And so they might actually be eligible for Medicare at this point. And so we have that money set aside to replace them if they break or to replace them in renovations, which is kind of what we did over here. These were all old units, the 6 over here. We did it as part of the process in the master planning and renovation. So that $25,000 will help fix that. So that uses up the surplus. Any questions about the surplus? You can see how we spent the money. We post financials on our website every month, and so that includes the spreadsheets of how we spent money for everything from our outreach fund to how much we're spending on copier expenses to the cleaning to everything. We try to be pretty transparent about all that. And so that's the highlights with what we're doing or what we've done in 2024. We have that surplus. That's what we're doing with it. Any questions about 2024 funds? DJ, Gary, anything I should address there? We were under budget almost everywhere. We exceeded income because of y'all's generosity, and we actually have things to do with the surplus. That's kind of the highlights of that. Now we can move to 2025. It's the back of the last 3 pages of the packet I gave you. I printed this before DJ sent the updated thing. The only difference is for the good. And so if you care and find a pen, you can go right down on income. We have an extra $3,300 because we found out late last week that the diocese is providing their support for Gavin for this month. Vestry made a decision. Gavin left us after the first week of the month. We're not cutting him off first week of the month. We paid him partly because of the way church health insurance and all that, works, and time of service for all this. We're paying him through the end of the month. The diocese is continuing their support for January. So we have an additional $3,300. Before we had that money, we had a balanced budget. So now we actually have a $3,300 surplus in our budget. And if you remember, we've had a balanced budget the last 2 years, and we've had a surplus at the end of the year as well. And so this is a pretty conservative budget. The Finance Committee feels pretty confident. You'll see, question.
Can we send these financial plans to Congress and show them how it's done?
Sure. If we could print our own money and man, that would be great. You'll see pledge income. The way we line this out is you all have told us what you plan to give. Many of you have also told us when you plan to give it. And so that's why you'll see it's not just a straight line, total divided by 12. We have a pretty good map of when folks will give. You see a dip in the summer because y'all go on vacation, and then we get a lot more money in September, yada, yada. You'll see that amount here. That makes up the bulk of the money we receive is through your pledges. And so this, we talked about it during stewardship. Part of it is for planning. Most of stewardship is a spiritual act between you and God, but it also helps us know what to expect going forward. Then you'll see non-pledge income. We've pegged that pretty much to what we received last year. Also knowing that there's a handful of families that did not turn in a pledge card for 2025. Those folks are still active. Those folks are still giving. There's just not a pledge, and so when it comes in, we put it towards the non-pledge income. And so that's how that number, we take the number we just kind of normally get in normal operating and added those expected families, and that's where we get that amount. Plate receipts, that's what y'all put in the plate. That's kind of what we get every year. The folks who've been doing this, the Finance Committee, we've seen this many years. We don't just throw things against the wall and see what sticks. This is based on experience. This is based on past results. Other contributions operating, that is facility use fees and things like that. Yeah, that's just stuff that comes in when someone has an event here or other things like that. That's standard. You'll see we're actually budgeting less than we received last year there. Christmas and Thanksgiving offerings. In the past, we've budgeted $9,000 or so for both of those things. Our year end, we do Thanksgiving offering, we do Christmas offering. They come together kind of year end. We budgeted about $9,000. Last year it was $22,000 that we received, right? Yeah, and so next year we're budgeting $20,000 because that number's been increasing every year, and we expect to get there as well. You'll see the curate support. So that totals the number. Last year, we received $613,000. This year, we budgeted to receive $550,000. You'll see that's a decrease. Some of that is because we're not going to get money for the rest of the year for a curate, which means we're not going to get a curate. I think I hinted at this last week. The vestry's made a decision. This isn't a budget decision. This is me saying I want to redirect some monies in the budget to other things. And so this is like a missional decision, not a we don't have the money for a curate decision. And so many of you have asked me, when are we going to get a curate? My answer now is...
When Alan starts getting really, really ready for vacation time.
No, we actually have I'm going to take my vacation. Not having a, right? I'm good about that. July 2026 is the soonest we'll get a curate. right? And so it'll be 18 months. We'll talk about that in a minute when we get to the budget. But it's okay. Like, I'm the one who told the finance committee, this is what I want to do. This is a missional decision. Questions about income, how any of that works, how we get to these numbers. Okay, budgeted expenses. You'll see here a couple big things. One of the things we wanted to do is invest more in outreach. So part of the curate stuff, we're investing into outreach. That starts with the first one that's a big change. You go down, buildings and grounds, that's all, it's cost of doing business. That all stays pretty much the same. We have some better numbers. Heating and cooling expenses will probably go down because we have newer, more efficient units. Hopefully, our buildings that have all been fixed this year won't break again. But we've budgeted based on our experience there. Insurance, things like that, we know what they're going to cost. Outreach, you'll see a new line item for deacons ministry. This is the thing I told Io about. We're not going to put him on the spot to talk to you about it, but he has money in his budget for events that he particularly wants to do as the deacon of this church. What that looks like is special things geared towards seniors in particular is where he wants to start with that. So if you're a senior around here, look for Io and things he might offer. Also, children. There's some things he in particular wants to do with the youth of this parish and all of that. And so he has a fund now that he can go crazy and do deacon things. And so you'll read some of that in his report next week. He's hinted at some of what he wants to do. And so that's a big thing. That's $4,000, right? And so we're putting that there. You'll see these other outreach partners. There's nothing in the budget for them. That doesn't mean they're not getting any money. Because actually, Presbyterian Night Shelter has already received, top of the year, we give $1,000 to Presbyterian Night Shelter. We give $1,000 to Union Gospel Mission. It's what we've been doing for years. We've already submitted those check requests. This year, we're increasing the Union Gospel Mission to $1,500. And so they don't have line items that says that, but it's within the larger outreach budget, which gets us to the total outreach down here. You'll see, or the subtotal, $16,000. That's money that's intentionally meant to be flexible. Remember last week we talked a lot about how we figure out things that need to happen throughout the year. We're always going to continue to support Union Gospel Mission. We're always going to support Presbyterian Night Shelter. We do things like that. This year, we've already sent money to the North Texas Transportation Network. I talked about that last week. That's a group that helps get folks with youth to find the medical care they need that you can't find in the state of Texas anymore. We sent them $1,000. Other things come up last year. We had the same flexibility, and so we were able to eliminate lunch debt for folks in Keller ISD, right? So we set aside money for long-term partners. We also have some flexibility in there. Like one, ShareFest Texas, Rick told me about this. This is a group based in Arlington. They do lots of work, particularly they work with Safe Haven of Tarrant County, which is a women's shelter. And so, right, we're going to send some money and some support and figure out ways that we can support them beyond just writing checks, right? Because mission is not just a checkbook. Mission is us participating in that. So we'll figure out other ways to do that as well. We've also, for the first time, put Four Saints in the budget. What this looks like is we are committing, no matter how much y'all put in the red envelopes, we will write checks to Four Saints for $6,000. The way y'all tend to operate, we're going to get well more than $6,000 in red envelopes. All of it will go to Four Saints. We're not holding back the extra. Everything in red envelopes will pass along. But if for some reason it falls short, we've committed that. So you'll see that we've put it in the budget. So we're committing ourselves to that. And so that totals, outreach is $26,000. That's more than double from last year, right? And so if you wonder, we have $40,000 of what we had been paying for the curate last year, and you wonder what we're going to do with that. $14,000 of it is going to outreach to serve our community. And so like I said, this isn't a we don't have money decision. This is a missional decision. Any questions about outreach? Yeah. So that $6,000 is the minimum that we'll give. So if the red envelopes at the end of the year total $9,000, we'll have a $9,000 expense for Four Saints.
Oh, okay.
Everything in the red envelopes will get passed along. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but the church won't, but this will 6,000 then won't be part of the budget. I mean, this will be a surplus in the budget because we will have given them 9,000.
But that comes through other operating income.
Oh, okay, I got it. Okay.
Yeah. It'll be categorized within an income line item, so we'll see it. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a good question. JB?
Are you saying like if we give more, the church, but if we give more, the church gets 2 additional?
Correct. Yeah. The minimum, we write them checks quarterly, so at the end of January, we're going to count up and we're going to receive $1,700, whatever. We'll write a check for $1,700 based off whatever that income is. Next quarter, we'll do the same. Is that, yeah, that,
But if we only pull in 1480 one quarter, we're writing a check for 1500.
yes.
Right.
Yeah. This is partly because, like, we ask y'all to pledge, so we know what to expect. Four Saints asked us to pledge, right? And they kind of know we're good for it, just like we kind of know y'all are good for it. But it's also helpful to have that piece of paper that says this is what we're going to do. Any other questions about outreach? All right. Office stuff, that's cost of doing business. Y'all pay for my cell phone if you didn't know. That's why, like, y'all call me all the time. And I typically answer. If not, I get back to you as soon as possible. And, like, that's my like, if y'all never knew, that's why it's a Houston number. That's my cell phone. I don't have this separate thing. Like, when y'all reach out to me, like, you're getting me. It's not like a church thing. There's no big changes in office communication. You'll see that's all what we spent in years past. There will be some changes here because once we make the switch to the new website, our first year of maintenance is included in that $9,300. And so there will be probably will be under budget in the website maintenance category because part of that will go away in the budgeted thing because it'll be included in that. So this year, those numbers will get a little fuzzy towards the end of the year there. Worship, we go through lots of wine and wafers and all those things. You'll see the big change here is no AV improvements. Because if you didn't know, we had a lightning strike. And so our AV is all brand new. Brand new cameras, brand new sound stuff, brand new everything. And so, and insurance has covered that, less our deductible. And so hopefully we won't need to replace any more of that. We won't need to improve any more of that. Improvements will come when we get to the renovations in the nave, but that'll be part of what we raise money for down there. But we should be set there. That's why there's nothing, that line item's been zeroed out. Io.
In regards to 4 Saints, I think Sue and myself, we attend the 4 Saints board meetings. And not that I'm trying to advocate, but I'm just encouraging us probably to do more because other churches are putting more money than us, and we are bigger than them. It's one of the things that when they first put it out, I think other churches are doubling what we put in it. So it's something that probably we need to look at before being finalized by the ministry.
Yeah, and that's another reason, part of the flexibility in the other outreach money, like some of that outreach money in that undesignated pot can go to the work at Four Saints, or we can just collect $6,000 worth of cans of corn as well and send those on. But yeah, I mean, part of what we want to do over the next year, and if Jim were here, he would ask each and every one of you, is both financially, but also we're one of the biggest contributors of volunteers there. We punch above our weight class in that. They had a thing a couple weeks ago, an emergency distribution during the cold, and over half the volunteers came from here. And so we're looking for ways to increase that. Virtually any day of the week, you can work there. It's not just showing up on Fridays. If you've got an hour any day, they can put you to work over there.
Yeah, to tell you, we had over 300 people Friday.
Friday it was over 300.
Families, 300.
Yeah, and so that's families, right? And so when I started here, we would talk about how many we had each week, and it was 100. And I remember when we got to more than 100. Some point last year it got to be 150, right? Some point last year it got to be 200. and now we're at 300. And we use a multiplier, right? That person's picking up food. And so that's 1,200 people every week. And it's different because you can only come once a month. So that's 5,000 people a month that the work at Four Saints supports.
Another thing about the food pantry, the Tarrant Food Bank, where they usually get most of they've been having a lot of trouble getting food. And so Four Saints has had to start going out and
Buying.
the food that we're giving out, so their expenses have gone up. So if anybody wonders why we keep giving so much, it's because not only do we have more people, but now the food is more expensive. So it's very important to have the funds.
What is the rule on breaking down? Like, if we bought rice in bulk, could we repackage, or is there
No.
Not something like that.
Okay.
They repackage things that may be individually wrapped. They buy those in bulk, and then they repackage them sometimes, but not loose things like rice.
Dog food and cat food.
Yeah, dog food and cat food.
But not human food. Yeah, this is a good thing. So one of the things I want to do this year is work on people that look at ways we can serve in new and different ways. We know the folks, like if we have questions about Union Gospel Mission, Presbyterian Night Shelter, I know who to ask. And we know who to figure it out, right? Four Saints, we know the people. But like, I want there to be people that are looking, not just me, at figuring out what the new need. I told y'all last year, right? Or last week. I hope next year, when I'm giving my annual report, I talk about that mission project that we worked on because someone came and told me ShareFest Texas is a group, or someone came and told me this is a need in the community. And so some of that is even Four Saints, right? Looking at how we can deepen our engagement there. So that's cool. Thank you. Worship, we talked about that. Programs, a lot of this stays the same. We're investing more heavily, you'll see, in youth programs, right? Some of that is we started investing in our children's program when we were hopeful that we would get like 2 or 3 kids. When I started here, we were investing in godly play. We were investing in children's chapel, knowing that maybe 2 kids were going to show up every Sunday. Look at where we are now, right? This is kind of the if you build it, they will come. And so we built the structure so that when 25 kids run off, we can handle it. Now we're going to turn and start doing that for youth. If all the youth in the parish show up the same Sunday, including mine who don't like to wake up, we have about 12, right? And so we're investing even more heavily. You'll see later on we're increasing the amount given to our youth minister. We're also increasing the amount given for youth programming so that we can pay to go to putt-putt, or we can pay to, bring in pizza, or whatever it looks like, whatever Leah and Liza decide. So that when those 12 kids show up, when those kids who are in children's chapel grow up, when those kids bring their friends, we're building the structure now so that in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, we have a place. And so that's where some of the money is going, is redirecting it towards youth ministry, away from the curate. So that's several $1,000s there as well. Any questions about programs? Cool. Payroll and benefits. Everyone's getting a 2.5% cost of living. Vestry's already voted on that. If y'all disagree, sorry. I got my money. No, that's, you got yours. Yeah, you too. Altar Guild, directress. I put that 2.5%, that's tagged to the Social Security cost of living adjustment. So every position received that. The youth minister, because that's a nominal amount, that's a very part-time, that actually went up 50%. And so you'll see that, because that, asking her to serve another week, that's different than asking, someone to continue what they're doing with cost of living. So that's a big driver there. I lost my page.
Is the overall budget less than what was actual in 2024 because of the whole curate thing?
Yeah. $40,000, sorry, $80,000. No, the way we cast the budget is only 40. 40 net. So yeah, 40,000 less, and we've spent some of that. And we've talked about where we spent some of that. The other big thing you'll see under payroll and benefits, we're going to start paying for professional services that have been donated in the past. There's money in the budget for financial manager. Sue Mitchell, who's our current financial manager, is looking to hire someone to assist her because She wants to travel. She wants to serve with other groups, right? And so, like, we want to have money available so that we can pay the people who've been doing it for free, right? And find ways to do that. And so that'll be a decision made by the finance team about that position. Same with the AV. Chuck has been here basically 50 weeks a year for 4 years. And he volunteers to do it. And many of you volunteer for other positions, and like, I would venture to say the guy running the AV, that's a professional skill set that like an usher isn't, right? Like, so there's a difference. We're making a distinction. I haven't talked to Chuck about this, like, don't surprise, but like, he may turn it down. But we need to be prepared if for some reason Chuck's not here, like, unless one of you knows how to do this thing and wants to give up every single Sunday to do it, this is an expense that would be someone professional. Other churches are hiring people to do this. And because we have a radio DJ and a sound engineer and a tech professor in our congregation, we've gotten by with 4 years. So you'll see that in there. You'll also see assisting clergy. That's a big chunk. That's $20,000. That's not a full-time position. That's not even a half-time position. I can't talk about what I hope it is because we're still waiting for some things from the diocese. But there's a very part-time, there's a part-time position I'm hoping is filled in the not too distant future. What that also looks like is bringing in not supply clergy. If this thing falls through, there's clergy in our congregation, there's clergy tangentially connected to our congregation that could serve more regularly than just supply, because y'all don't just need to hear other voices when I decide to go to Colorado, right? Y'all need to hear other voices throughout the year. And so some of that looks like someone else to make hospital visits during the week, someone else to preach so y'all can hear from different voices, and someone else to share that work. I don't believe it's a full-time position. And some of you have asked, like, aren't you going to be whatever? Having a curate isn't just having an assistant clergy, right? I spent a lot of time working with Gavin on what it means to be a priest, right? We didn't bring him on so it would free up my time. I actually committed to spending much of my time working with him as a mentor and a boss. And so outside of having a curate, which is a very particular thing, which I enjoy having and I hope we have again, I don't believe this place needs a full-time second clergy. I do think we need a second clergy to help with some things. And so we're going to try a creative approach. We got one thing, hopefully will work. Everyone cross your fingers. Hopefully by the end of the month we'll know. But even if that doesn't work, we have some folks connected to us that we can bring on to help me out. And that gets us through the budget. You'll see we got a $3,000 surplus budget. As is our practice in the past, we're probably not going to spend all that money because we try to be good stewards. And we'll probably, hopefully, bring in more than we expect because y'all are faithful and generous. Any questions about that? We got 3 minutes. Did I miss anything, Gary, DJ? Gary?
I just have one thing when everybody's done with questions.
Any questions?
Okay. One of the things that the Finance Committee does each year is to do the annual review.
Oh, yeah.
We're able to do a committee review. I've had pretty much the same team do it for the last 5-6 years. And I'm looking for other people if they would like to participate. If you have an accounting degree, or if you've done bookkeeping, or if you have a finance degree, and you can understand financial statements and invoices and stuff like that. I'm just trying to add to the team if there's anybody that's interested. I don't know of another way to have a call. So if anybody wants to do that, or take a look at it, or think about it, let me know. It's not a big time commitment. It's one Saturday morning, maybe a few emails, and possibly a Zoom meeting. That would be about it. If anybody wants to do that, let me know. I'll take down your name and address and stuff, and we'll see.
Yeah, thank you. He mentioned we're able to do a committee review. That's because of the size of our budget and diocesan expectations. Yeah, I need that so y'all can hear me. So the people who aren't here can hear me. Last year we paid an outside review, not an audit, but an outside review because we had never had one, or at least in the recent past, we hadn't had one. Nothing came back amiss because we have a pretty well-oiled machine we've had. And so we're going to continue with the committee review. So yeah, if you have some skill set or know someone that does, talk to me, talk to Gary. We'll get you plugged in and do that. Yeah, Michael.
One thing I want to comment on. The 2 years we've been here is how this parish continues to grow in not in terms of dollars, which we have, but in terms of mission and what we accomplish. And it's incredible. One thing that I know what DJ does, because I did that in my former church, it's a labor of love. For doing what he does takes a lot of time, and a lot of effort, and a lot of skill, and I just want to make sure that everybody understands that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you to DJ and Sue, financial manager, Gary, chair finance committee. Yeah, wardens, Dick, and then Rick.
It's not finance.
Sure.
But I wanted to let everybody know. St. Martin's in the Field is the only congregation in the diocese that has 2 junior wardens. Do we need 2 junior wardens? They don't. We did this year, by all means. This is Rick's last meeting as a junior warden. He's been amazing, a fantastic helper. The 2 of us have partnered extremely well together, and he's taking care of the air conditioning and the rooms and all amazing stuff. So I just wanted to pass on my thanks to him personally for what he's done as a junior.
And just because you're not junior warden doesn't mean you can't come up and fix things. Just remember.
For those of you who are not, you mentioned ShareFest Texas. Many of you may have not heard of this organization. Their mission is to provide safe, secure housing for victims of domestic violence, which is a real cancer in our society. They make sure that moms and kids get into a furnished home or an apartment away from the abuser. So that's something I'm glad we're going to go in and start.
And that's something y'all ask me and something people in the community ask is they say, hey, I have a couch. Can y'all take it? And I always say, no. Do not drop a couch on the porch up here. But one thing ShareFest does, they pick up these things.
That's right.
And so this is, if nothing else, this is an organization so that when y'all have furniture and household items, we have somewhere we know where it's going to go and we know what it's going to go for. And so because Rick told me about this yesterday, we at least have that. And we're going to have more with that. So thank you for that. One more comment, then we need to go.
Okay, this isn't in-house, but this is out-of-house. I want to let you know that Boy Scouts for Tarrant area, it's Mustang District, and the troop here at the church has been increasing, and one of the reasons they have been increasing is because as I go out into the district, and I'm pretty actively involved in the district, I hear nothing more than how you guys are organized, how we have our finances on lock, and that when people turn receipts in for Eagle projects, they actually get their money back. How we are supportive, how we don't offend or pick on people that are coming in that are different. And the reason that the troop here is increasing is because of the type of congregation we are. And some of that is financial and organizational and just the support they're getting. And some of that is just the attitudes and behaviors demonstrated by the congregation. And that was brought up to me at the regional meeting.
Awesome. And that's the thing. Yeah, that's great. So it's morphed a little bit. The leadership of the scout troop, outside of me as the executive and Liza as the, I forget her title, but the liaison, charter org rep, everything else is people not connected to the congregation. Their only connection to the congregation is through the troop. And so folks feel welcome and connected enough to this place. They're not going to show up on Sunday, except for February 2nd because it's Scout Sunday, but they know this is their home. And that's because of the welcome, right? I mentioned at 8:30 the radical welcome of this place that extends even to Scouts. And there was a Girl Scout troop that was supposed to do a cooking thing, and it was really cold, and they couldn't find a place. And I was like, yeah, come on here on a Tuesday night, and you can use the kitchen, because that's the type of place we want to be. And so, yeah, that goes to what Michael said. We're increasing the ways we look at mission. It's not just writing checks. It's opening up a kitchen to a Scout troop. It's making sure folks not connected to this parish feel welcome. It's doing all of those things that we can actually go out there and be the hands and feet of Jesus. Any last questions before I got to go get changed? All right. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
Thanks.
You missed it. We got